Welcome back to West Texas View.
Before the break, we were talking about some of the ways that the Samaritan Counseling Center receives funding for those who would normally not be able to afford or don't have insurance to afford counseling. And we talked about some of the national grants that have been given and some of the local grants for specific certain populations. But we also have another avenue of funds, and that's through two major fundraisers. One is the Clay Shoot, and one is the Family of the Year Banquet. It's really important to recognize those families that are functioning well and that have made important contributions to examples within the community. But also, one of the fundraisers is the Clay Shoot. Talk to us about that, because that's coming up in about 6 weeks.
Yeah, here in about 6 weeks, March 21st, we'll be doing our first Clay Shoot. It's going to be at Jake's Clays out in Midland, and it's a fun time. It's a great time. If you've ever done a Clay Shoot, you know how fun it is. And if you haven't, you need to come sign up for ours. And it's a really fun time. We have room for several teams of 6. A team of 6 is about $1,200. If you want to be a sponsorship, if you have a business that you own, you can come in and we have different levels of sponsorship, anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000, and that will buy you a team to 2 teams depending on the level. We're going to have a gun board, and that allows you to be able to win some
pretty nice prizes.
Some pretty nice firearms that you can win from just going out and having a good time.
And a lot of our Clay Shoots, it's whole families that come and be involved.
Yeah,
you've got fathers and sons, or mothers and dads and their children. And
yeah, I've been to several, and the last one I went to, I joined in with a family, and it was cousins and uncles and aunts, and it was a great time.
And even though the competition is friendly, it's still pretty serious.
Well, and the fun it's not for competition type shooting, but it's for bragging rights for sure. But we get out there, have a great time, and we'll have a nice meal afterwards that will be catered for lunch, and so it'll be a lot of fun.
And when you know that you've contributed, you've had fun, but you've also contributed through your entry fees and so on to a cause that's going to help so many people, the veterans, the children that are being bullied, whether it's cyberspace or face-to-face, young families that are in crisis with their marriage, and individuals that are having problems with their habits that have gotten them addicted in certain ways. And so you're really, really helping to make our Permian Basin more functional. And another thing we need to talk about is how broad an area you serve.
Yeah, we have 31 counties, 31 counties that we serve all across West Texas. And so we have satellite offices in Big Spring and Andrews, and
Casa Amigas.
Yes, I believe that's correct. So we have ways to, if you can't come to us, we want to try to come to you in a central location, and so you can call the center and find out more about that.
And that's what I was going to say. The bottom line is, if you've got a question, whether we can help you, or whether there's a satellite in our area or anything like that, call the number that's rolling across the screen, and they can answer questions, no charge, no obligation, but they can answer questions about whether Samaritan Counseling Center could be of help and how.
Yeah, and if we can't, we're not going to just say, sorry, we can't help you. We're going to point you in the direction that you may need to go, and if you don't know where to start.
And I know that last week, one of our guests from the Samaritan Counseling Center said that you are not per se an addiction facility where you do the counseling, but you have to do the personality that becomes addicted, and so there's sometimes you are partnering with another counseling service to counsel a smaller problem area while they're looking at the addiction.
Yeah, in any time, you know, we're not a one-stop shop by any means. If there's we would try to get to a certain point, and our professional counselors know when they're at their limits and they need to refer something to another facility, inpatient or what have you. And so, but we're a great starting point. We could be a great ending point. We don't know until we get further into those sessions, but we're always a great starting point.
And the interesting thing is, last week they were saying that they have at least 2 other languages that are spoken by counselors, so it's a bilingual counseling center.
Yes.
And
yes.
so that's not been a problem at all for someone who needs help that does not speak English.
Yeah, we want to try to, you know, help everybody in our community. We have a large Hispanic population, so we have 2 Spanish-speaking counselors, and they're fantastic.
And the interesting thing is you've got specialties. You've got a person that really specializes in children, but she does other things, but that's her real specialty. And then you've got another one that really specializes in family and marital counseling, but even though he or she might do something else. So it's really an interesting all-inclusive kind of counseling service. And I loved what you said at the beginning, that you have counseling parents, and to know that there is a facility in the community that includes the spiritual debate, the spiritual aspect. It's not denominational based.
Right.
It's absolutely strictly spiritual based, the
Right.
spiritual component in our lives.
Yes, and you know, and if the person's not comfortable talking about that aspect, part of that counseling, it's not something that's pushed on them, but you know, that's something that we're going to refer to, and if we're open to conversation, if the client is open to conversation, we're always going to lead that way, because we want to be able to hold completely.
Yeah, and that is so important for us to realize how interconnected our being is, and how important it is to look at all these aspects and not hide any particular area. We're about to have to take a break, but before we do, I wanted to just give you something to think about that we're going to talk about when we come back, and that's how we reach out to all of these counties that we serve. And I know that we've said that there are satellites, but in the areas where there's not satellites, how do we reach out to those people? We're going to come back in just a minute and continue this conversation. We'll see you in just a minute.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.